And welcome, sports fans, to today's roundtable. And we've got some results to get to from spring results here in the area for the past few days. And we're also going to touch on some high school baseball state rankings for the state of Missouri. And we'll get to those later on in the show as well. And also we're going to touch on some state championships that were won from Southeast Missouri teams in high school baseball going back to the start of the state championships here in the state of Missouri. We're going to touch on those, a little bit of history here on the roundtable for high school baseball. So look forward to that later on in the show, and we'll be bringing more things to you as well. So glad you joined us for today here on the roundtable, and of course tune in each Saturday morning live at 10 a.m. right here on YHC and online at YHCTV.com and even CMOSportZone.com. And we replay throughout the weekend. You can even watch it on demand afterwards on those websites. So glad you joined us for this Saturday. And taking a look at some games from the past few days in the area. And high school baseball from Tuesday earlier in the week, we had Dexter over Charleston 11-2. Also we had Neelyville over South Pemiscot 5-4. Bell City over Oak Ridge 5-4. And also we have Bloomfield over Advance 7-2. Cooter over Southland 13-1. Bernie over Scott County Central big 25-1. Portageville over Kelly 7-5. And also Nevada County Central over East Prairie 13-3. Kennett over Hayti 17-2. Sykeston over Carbondale of Illinois, 13-2. BB over Paragould, 12-4 down in northeast Arkansas. And also we have Bernie over Scott County Central in softball Tuesday. It was 22-0. Dexter over Charleston in softball, 13-3. New Madrid County Central over East Prairie, big, 17-1. Kennett over Zenith Hornersville 19-0. And in high school baseball on Wednesday, it was Oran over Scott County Central, big 17-1. Bloomfield over Leopold 1-0. Bell City over Kelly 8-5. Neelyville over South Pemiscot in a close one 5-4. Jackson over Notre Dame on Thursday 8-2. And not many games on Thursday due to that big rain Wednesday night, so that's the only game we had on Thursday. Now, yesterday, East Prairie over Kelly on Friday, 5-2. Cooter over Zenith Hornersville in a shutout, 10-0. And in high school softball on Friday, East Carter County over Kennett, 8-1. And also we had Marmaduke over McCrory, 7-2 there in northeast Arkansas. So those are the results to bring to you from over this past week. And that big thunderstorm Wednesday night knocked out a lot of games over the past few days. So I'm sure this next week will be a lot better week for high school softball and baseball. And we're going to take a break, and we're going to take a look at the high school baseball state rankings for Missouri, and also touch on the all-state teams for high school basketball from this past year, and we'll be back with those coming up.
I wanna stay connected to you. I like the way you do what you do. Alright, okay, you're fine. Hey.
Call Audubell Hearing Center at 1-800-499-8786 or visit one of our locations in Dexter and Poplar Bluff, Missouri today.
I'm a full-time wife and mom, and I also work as a substitute teacher. You can see why it seems impossible to get a college degree, but with Southeast Missouri State University's regional campuses, it really is within my reach. I can get a degree without leaving my hometown, and that's important when you have a family. Getting a college degree isn't easy, but Southeast makes it convenient.
Southeast Missouri Mutual Insurance is celebrating our 100th year. We started protecting rural farmers way back in 1910, ensuring folks no one else would. Southeast Missouri Mutual Insurance has been a family business for 4 generations, and we continue that tradition today, providing solid home, farm, and commercial insurance at very competitive rates. When the ice storm hit us, we were out there with you. All of our claims were processed within days, and we will continue to provide the best coverage and the best service for the next 100 years. Southeast Missouri Mutual Insurance, a century of service.
And now we're going to take a look at some high school baseball state rankings for the state of Missouri. And this is from the Missouri High School Baseball Coaches Association. And in Class 1, Santa Fe on top at number 1, 2, Oran, 3, Sturgeon, 4, Leopold, 5, Cairo, 6, Lakeland, 7, Bunker, 8, Pilot Grove, 9, Cooter, and 10, Southland. And I don't think Southland's our school down in southern Duplin County. I think it's a different part of the state, but still yet, I think, 1, 2, 3 schools there from Southeast Missouri in that top 10, and this one's a few weeks old, so we'll probably see a little fluctuation in these polls going forward. And in Class 2, Valley Catholic out of St. Genevieve at number 1, 2, Hartville, 3, Tipton, 4, Neelyville, 5, Billings, 6, Dora, 7, Canton, 8, Broad Academy, 9, Kabul, and 10, Concordia. So we got 2 area teams there in the top 5 of Valley Catholic and Neelyville. In Class 3, state rankings, Holden at number 1, 2, Christian O'Fallon, 3, Clever, 4, Forsyth, 5, Springfield Catholic, 6, Conway, 7, Fatima, actually a 2-way tie for 7, Fatima and Lutheran North, and Malden at number 9, and 10, Jefferson Festus. So we got 2 teams, actually 1 team there in the top 10 with Malden there at number 9. And in Class 4 for the state rankings, Westminster Christian at number 1, 2, Notre Dame of Cape Girardeau, 3, Logan Rogersville, 4, Oak Grove, 5, Festus, 6, Lutheran South, 7, St. Dominic, 8, St. Francis Borgia, 9, Mount Vernon, and 10, Manette. So we got Cape Notre Dame there at number 2 in the state in Class 4. So those are your rankings, and we'll try to bring those to you each week here on the Roundtable going forward. And a rich tradition of high school baseball in Southeast Missouri, especially Cape Notre Dame, which we're going to get to in our next segment. Many state championships there at Cape Notre Dame in high school baseball, and of course Oran's there at the top there in Class 1. Got some tough teams year in and year out here in Southeast Missouri. And now we're going to take a look at the all-state basketball teams from Missouri, and we'll give you the first team all-state honors for boys and girls, starting with the boys in Class 1, Lorandas Banks of Scott County Central, junior from Scott County, senior Kyle Stroder of Leopold, in Class 2, Alex Herring of Oran, in Class 3, Michael Hull of Charleston, and Willie Jemerson, the sophomore from New Madrid County Central, Michael Hull, a senior. In Class 4, Cavante Mitchell, junior from Kennett, Vashawn Ruffin, senior from Sykeston. And for the girls, first team all-state honors in girls Class 1, Kayla Blissett of Scott County Central. Girls Class 2, Kayla Moppin of Neelyville, Carrie Shepard of South Pemiscot. And girls Class 3, Tori Cole of Twin Rivers. Girls Class 4, Brittany Harris of Dexter. And those are your basketball all-state teams for the state of Missouri. And a lot of good teams, a lot of good players in this area, especially for the boys. Really had a great season for the boys here in Southeast Missouri. And, of course, Dexter really dominating the news with the girls, making it to the state Final Four in Columbia. And we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and talk about past state champions in the state of Missouri for high school baseball. And we're going to go back in history, going back to even the 1950s for some state championships in baseball, and we'll be back with that coming up.
Let's talk about next year. This is the time of year to reflect on last season's crop and make decisions for next season. What mix of crops should you plant? Should you buy new equipment this year or get by another year with what you have? We'd like to help you make the financial side of your planning a little easier. Our ag department knows agriculture, and they're local.
Stop by and see us
at First Midwest Bank.
At Glenn St. Kennett, we have a lot full of inventory and the best rebates of the year. I'm Danny Ford, owner of Glenn St. We just want the opportunity to talk to you about your next car or truck. The rebates are the best of the year and interest rates the lowest to work with. It's a great time to buy, and our people are excited to help you make the right choice. We realize you have a lot of dealers to choose from, but I can assure you no one appreciates your business like we do. Glenn St. Kennett, and God bless our troops.
When I was a kid, we didn't have all these wireless devices. We only had one computer plugged into the wall, and we were grateful.
Technology changes fast. Stay ahead with blazing fast internet speeds from New Wave Communications. New Wave delivers the internet with incredible speeds, up to 50 megabits per second. Pick the package that's right for you. New Wave, the area's fastest internet, period.
Kids today don't know how good they have it.
And now we're going to take a look at some state champions for the state of Missouri and the history here in Southeast Missouri with state championships. And we're going to go back to 1954 with our first state champion from Southeast Missouri, and it was Cape Central defeating Lutheran out of St. Louis in 1954. And Cape Central had a really good run in the 50s. This was the only time in the 50s that they won the state championship, but they made it to the state championship game a few times there in the 50s, and won once again in 1962 as they defeated St. Louis University High in 62. And Cape Central really had a good run there in the 60s as well. Really good teams, and I think the 62 team was 21-0 in that season. So I had an undefeated season there in 62. And that these 2 years in 54 and 62 and much of the 50s and 60s, there was only one state champion, so that's why we're not giving a classification there, because there was only one state champion for the whole state of Missouri. So that makes it even more, a greater accomplishment being just one state champion for the state of Missouri. And that's how it was in the earlier days. You can even go back to high school basketball and just the sport, all the sports in general, just had one state champion. And there are a few states that still do that, but only very few that have one overall state champion. So pretty good feat there in the 50s and 60s by Cape Central. And taking a look at some other teams we have in 1975 in Class A. There were two classes then, I believe. And in Class A it was Chaffee defeating St. Francis Borgia. And if you know anything about these two teams now, quite a bit of difference in teams. Chaffee, a smaller school up north, and I believe they typically play out of Class 2 now, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe Class 1, but Borgia plays out of Class 4 in this day and time. But, that's a different time. St. Francis Borgia probably had a smaller enrollment, and it's a private school as well. So it just shows you the difference in schools. And, there were only two classifications, I think, there in 75. So state championship for the Chaffee Red Devils in 1975. And also in 83, had quite a few state champions from the area. And in this year there were four classes, and we've got three state champions from 83. Chaffee defeating Edgewood Christian there in Class 1A. Class 2A, Notre Dame of Cape Girardeau defeating Licking. And in Class 3A, Farmington defeating Duchesne. And those are Southeast Missouri teams there, and Class 4A was the other class, the largest class. So in 83, Southeast Missouri representing three of the four classes of state champions. So a big year for Southeast Missouri in 1983. Now in 1984, in Class 2A, it was Notre Dame defeating Mansfield in 84. And in 93, it was Notre Dame defeating Mansfield again in Class 2A. And through the 80s and 90s here, there are four classes, 1A through 4A. And in 1994, Cape Central defeated Joplin in Class 4A. So Cape Central with another state championship there in 1994. And most recently in 2009 in Class 3, it was Notre Dame defeating Carl Junction in 2009. And now there's 4 classes. They're not called 1A through 4A. They're classes 1, 2, 3, and 4. And Notre Dame coming away with the last state championship here locally in 2009. So we haven't had as many state champions here in the area. And I think, if you're looking a bit up north, Crystal City won one just a few years ago. They're a little kind of farther north, but they are southeastern region. But when we consider southeast Missouri, they're typically not included, but they are in the southeastern part of Missouri. But Crystal City won one a few years ago, but here immediately in the southeast Missouri area, Notre Dame's the last one in 2009. And we've had quite a few teams make it to the state championship game. I know Sykeston had a really good run in the early 2000s, made it to the Final Four, and I think they came away with third place a few times. I think they even made it to the state championship game. I'm not real clear on that, but Sykeston had a really good run. You think back to Blake DeWitt. Of course, he went on straight from high school to the pros and ended up with the Dodgers, and as of late, the Cubs. Had a pretty good career in the pros. Anytime you can go and have a career of spanning, 7, 8 years in the pros, you've been successful. And on that team also, Jacob Prouty was the all-time home run leader at Mizzou. Actually got drafted by the Astros, but decided to forego professional baseball. But one of the greats of high school baseball and even college baseball for Missouri. And that just goes to show you how tough it is for high school baseball. Those two guys on the same team, and a great team there in the early 2000s by Sykeston, unable to win a state championship, but Cape Notre Dame more successful in 2009, winning a state championship. And you can probably consider Cape Notre Dame probably the premier team in high school baseball in southeast Missouri, probably winning the most state championships as we've seen. I think they've won 3 in their school's history. So nice history by Cape Notre Dame in their high school baseball. But you look at Cape Central, they've won a few as well, even though they haven't had the success as of late. But looking at their history, certainly had the great history in their high school baseball history. And Chaffee's one of the top teams. They've been to a few state championships and won a few. And they've also got a really good tradition there in Chaffee, probably their best sport. Even though they do have a football state championship. We've talked about that before. I think they got one earlier in the 80s, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So Chaffee, a really good baseball school, and it just goes to show you how tough it is to win state championships in baseball. You can really, and the thing is, you got to have, there's 9 players on the field at once. And, that's why we see more basketball have better success, because you only have to have 5 on the court at once. And if you have 3 really good players out of the 5, you got a really good shot. But with 9 players, and even with football at 11, you've got to have more talent filling up those positions. So it's much harder with the teams here in our area, with the smaller schools, of course. So that's just the dynamic of the difference in sports across fall and spring. So I just want to bring you a little history of high school baseball, as now we're into the spring season, giving you a feel of what teams have done here in southeast Missouri on the state level with respect to high school baseball state championships. So it's always fun to go back in history, as we did last week. We had Larry Warren on the show, former coach of the 1974 Lilburn Panthers state basketball championship team, and we even have footage of that game, and we really appreciate Larry coming in and giving us a piece of history here from southeast Missouri. So we're going to start doing that more often, bringing in more history of southeast Missouri sports and respect to statewide sports as well, what they did at the state level for the state of Missouri. So I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll try to bring more of that going forward here on the Roundtable. And before we go today, we want to show you a little segment from Southeast Missouri's State Athletic Department, and they're getting ready for their football season in the fall, and they're doing some spring workouts. And the Sports Information Department caught up with the defensive coach for the Red Hawks, talking about their defensive approach coming into the next season and their spring workouts. So let's take a look.
into spring football practice here at Southeast Missouri and taking some time to visit with Southeast defensive coordinator Brian Munson. Coach Munson, what are your thoughts on the spring so far?
We're improving. You know, we're taking little steps every single day, and that's the big thing, is to make sure we increase our knowledge of what we're doing schematically. We're running to the football, and the biggest thing is improving our technique and our tackling.
Now, you guys returned 3 starters on defense, so there's quite a few holes to fill this year. How do you plan on building the defense around those 3 starters?
Well, the big thing is getting everybody as many reps as we can and see who's going to show up. You know, the ability of guys mentally increases their reps. If they know what they're doing, they're going to play more. It's very simple. But the most important thing is we want to identify the guys that can make plays. You know, there's going to be mistakes. I make mistakes every single day. I tell the kids that all the time. But can you learn from those and you move on? And that's the biggest thing about making sure everybody has the understanding. They see a new formation, they see a new play, go to their base rules and try and identify that and get going.
And one of those players that can certainly make plays is Daniel Sindel. He's one of the linebackers, one of those 3 returning starters. He's also the top tackler coming back from last year. Speak a little bit about Daniel Sindel and what he brings to the table.
Well, the biggest thing with Danny is that he's a good leader. He knows what he's doing. He helps the young guys understand when they make a mistake. He can go and coach those guys. And when you get a lot of guys like that, it makes a big difference to a position group and to the team, defense and then the team, obviously.
And then those other 2 starters are Reggie Jennings and Tim Hambe. Those guys are in the secondary. You guys were second in the Ohio Valley Conference last year in pass defense. How is it to have those 2 guys back?
Well, the biggest thing is those 2 guys are playmakers. They're showing up every single day. They're getting things corrected from last year, the mistakes that they made, and they're taking their level of play higher every single day. And that's what we want those guys to do. And then when you talk about all 3 of those guys, it's their job to bring everybody with them. And when you look at George Newhouse as another linebacker that's coming in that's vying for a starting position, you take younger guys or new guys that came in from junior college at semester, those 3 guys got to make sure everybody's on the same page. And through their individual workouts that they have in the weight room and all this preseason stuff we've done coming up to spring ball, they've shown that, and that's what we're excited about with them.
And then, I mean, you guys will practice 15 times this spring. Ultimately, what are the things that you're looking to take away from the spring that you can carry on into the preseason camp in August?
Well, in spring, you always try and make sure you get that underlying base defense in, where you can always go back to that. If you're struggling with something, you always can go to your base defense. And so what that basically means is we have your main zone package, your man package, your blitz package. You improve those techniques every single day. Then it doesn't matter where you go in the fall with new defenses and all that, because they have the core in. Now, from that standpoint of getting your core in spring, you want to improve your technique. So the biggest thing we're looking for is the improvement of technique, the improvement of our tackling and our angles specifically, and making sure we're giving that effort that we did last year.
And just one final question. You guys will have your first inter-squad scrimmage this Saturday here at Houck Stadium. It'll be the first of 3 scrimmages that you guys will have in the spring, but how's it going to be for these guys to actually get into some live game simulated action?
Well, the biggest thing is for us coaches to get off to the side and let them guys go play. And when they're out there, they have to think. They're not hearing me talk. They're not hearing our secondary coaches talk. They're not hearing the offensive coaches talk. So they get to go out there. They get to read their keys, get lined up, alignment, assignment, technique, play football. And when they have that ability to get out there, it puts them more in a game situation, allows them to be a great football player. Because it's easy to do something when somebody's telling you what to do all the time. But when you're out there on your own, it makes a big difference. And that's what we want to identify this weekend, to see who's going to step up, who's going to go make plays, who knows what they're supposed to do, who's supposed to get lined up, where they're supposed to go on both sides of the ball, and we're rolling.
All right, well, thanks again for your time, Coach Munson, and best of luck the rest of the spring.
Thank you.
Once again, that is Southeast Missouri Defensive Coordinator Brian Munson.
And a nice look there from the Sports Information Department at Southeast Missouri State, just giving you a little preview of what's to come in the fall. And, of course, Southeast Missouri wanted to put up a good team in the fall, come the college football season. And just giving you a little touch of football. I know there's some football fans out there already ready, and myself can't wait as well. I'm really into the football, and it'll be here before you know it. We'll be wrapping up the Roundtable season. And mid to late May, we take basically when school lets out, we basically let out as well, because that's the big part of our coverage is high school athletics here in Southeast Missouri, Northeast Arkansas. And once the school's let out, we let out for the Roundtable on Saturdays for the summer. Come back in late August, gearing up for the fall sports with football, volleyball, and the like. And we'll be taking the summer off, and so we'll be covering the spring sports as we go on. Try to get some guests in here, such as athletes, coaches, sports writers for the remainder of the season. And we typically in the spring we like to get the athletes in after their fall and winter sports seasons are over, and try to get some baseball coaches and spring sports interests as well for the spring. But expect mid to late May we'll take off for the roundtable for the summer. And what we'll also be doing is bringing in officials. We always have an officials day for, if not the last show, but one of the last shows of the roundtable. We always have officials day. We bring in a referee or two with different sports and give us kind of their background in sports in general and how it works into the officiating, and just give us some good stories and memories about their officiating here in Southeast Missouri. So it's always a good insight to have from the officials. I know we're not everyone are fans of officials, but it's good to have the insight of an official and what goes on with the fraternity of officials in Southeast Missouri. And it's always one of our best shows we have here on the roundtable to talk about different sports and different eras and different players, teams, and it's always a good time with the different officials that we have in here each year. So look forward to that next month in one of our last roundtable shows. It's always a good one, and we'll be looking forward to having that next month. And also we want to give you an update on what we're going to be doing here at YHC and also online at SemoSportsZone.com. We're going to be covering the Rib City Shootout here in Dexter, and it's always a big basketball event through late May into the summer and late July, basically late May through late July, of different basketball. And there's 6 weekends of high school basketball, and that's girls and boys basketball. They have it from middle school up through the varsity level, and 6 different weekends. There are three weekends for the girls, 3 weekends for the boys, and we're going to cover that and actually bring you games here on YHC from the Dexter Bearcat Event Center. And I'm not sure whether we're going to do it live yet or it's going to be on a tape delay basis. We're going to bring the games to you through here at YHC or online at SemoSportsZone.com. We're not quite sure whether we're going to do it live or not yet, but we will bring some games to you. Not all of them, of course. There's upwards to 60 teams that arrive for a weekend, but we won't bring all the games, but the main games over, and they have them on I believe it's Saturday and Sunday they have the games. So we're going to bring you games, probably 3 per day, whether they're live or brought back and available to watch on demand online, and even show games here on YHC. So just give you a little update of what we plan on doing for the summer. That Rib City Shootout's always a big attraction. A lot of the local teams come and play and participate, but even teams coming from out of state and even upstate Missouri, from St. Louis and area teams, even teams in Tennessee and Kentucky come over. Very good teams that come around from the tri-state region, and we'll kind of give you a feel of what teams are going to be bringing back and how they're playing over the summer. So look forward to that here with our programming, the Rib City Shootout in Dexter. And that's all we've got for you today, and we appreciate you for tuning in as always, and we'll look forward to having you back next week for another roundtable. And until then, I'm Tyler Wagner. Have yourself a good one.